头。
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of racing in the middle of the pack Racing League Spring into F4 Championship for 2024, sponsored by PT Actuator and brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And here today, we're taking a look back at all the racing action from the concluding round of the first half of the season. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for round 4 of 8, and we are here in Canada for the first time this season for the one and only Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, also known as the Montreal Circuit. Located in what is the Circuit Notre Dame region, as it was previously known as the Circuit Notre Dame, but on Notre Dame Island in particular, this is a circuit like no other when it blends the lines between a dedicated road racing course and a street circuit. Many would refer to it as a hybrid street circuit in the fact that this circuit not within the streets confines, but more on a artificial island and more within a natural park. And as our drivers roar around here, they'll find the walls are ever close, giving off the presence of a street circuit, but they'll also find their surroundings are without the majority of skyscrapers and also shops and houses that we've seen over the previous 3 rounds. This circuit has played host to a multitude of racing over the course of its extensive history, and it's also gone through multiple evolutions since its conception. Originally a highly technical circuit that's all about handling characteristics, and its modern guise extending to a length of 2.71 miles and consists of 14 corners, it is an interesting mix of what is chicanes, straights and hairpins, making a power circuit where on the exit of each and every corner sequence there's an extended straight while drivers will need to maximise their speed if they want to come out for victory. But as our drivers get ready to go racing today, one thing that's always present, of course, are the walls, and none more so than the exit wall in the final corner at turn number 14, known as the Wall of Champions, simply put for the reason that it's claimed many of the race of a motorsporting legend, particularly in Formula 1, as they've been on their way towards a championship crown or after it. But will it claim any of our drivers today? We'll have to wait and see as we take a look back at all the racing action from Wednesday the 1st of May, bringing it to you as if it were live today in this post-round broadcast on Saturday at the 4th of May. And we'll welcome to you guys and girls tuning in. You can be tuning in live right now via one or two media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, you could be tuning in via YouTube, and that would be at youtube.com and search for TX141 at TX, alternative Paul Walsh, and welcome to you guys and girls on YouTube. Or you could be tuning in alternative via Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls on Twitch. Now you may be asking at this point, well, who is Paul Walsh, who is TX141? Well, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm your host and commentator for this season, and my name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain and Spin, depending on what media follow me on. And we're speaking of media, our broadcast schedule for today at times in British Summertime, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1. We've only got one item on our agenda today. There's no qualifying, and we'll talk a little bit more about how the grid's going to be set shortly for our one and only feature race. And it's the first of our 2 feature races this season, 50 minutes in duration. That's right, a big 5-0, almost an hour of racing, and we're due to get underway in just shy of 11 minutes time at 5:15 this afternoon. But as all our drivers get set and ready to go, let's give you a quick recap of the season so far and what's lying in wait after today. As we can see, we're now into round number 4, and well, we've made the journey to the end of the Streetfighters Cup. Aptly named given the fact it's all been focused around street circuits, and we began the campaign with a triple header in the United States of America, and we started off in the city of Long Beach in California with the one and only Long Beach Street Circuit, while drivers roared their way around its curved straights and also its medium and low speed apexes, and was absolute drama in the season opener. But absolute drama could be the coining term for all 3 rounds of the season, with round number 2 at Chicago, the Chicago Street Course, of course, conceived on iRacing and turned into reality in 2023 for a collaboration effort from iRacing and NASCAR, and brought to you in terms of the race with our drivers in round number 2. On the 17th of April, we got to see the drama raised a notch, with many a race leader across all 3 classes ended up in a spin or contact with all that put them down the order, and some surprise victories up and down the field. And last time out at Belle Isle, the circuit that's now defunct, but previously located in what was the state of Michigan in the city of Detroit, we can definitely tell you an absolutely legendary circuit, the Belle Isle circuit. That's not to say the Chicago Street Circuit in Illinois was not legendary, but Belle Isle absolutely bringing together the best racing action so far we've seen this season, and it's all been absolutely incredible. And the 24th of April, we got to see new winners and a complete shake-up in the championship stands across all 3 classes. And will those shake-ups are sent us to today in round number 4 at Montreal. But after today, we'll be taking our mid-season break, 1 week off before we return to the racing action on the 15th of May, and we'll be kicking off the Road Racer Cup, which will be a triple header of sprints, followed followed up by a feature round to conclude the season. Now, this cup, of course, is going to be known for the fact it's on circuits that are dedicated to road racing, so no more street circuits after today. And those of you who are street circuit fans, well, this will be your last gasp to be able to enjoy the street circuit racing action as we return to more traditional circuits, starting off with the ultimate circuits in Canada, and that being the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, also known as Motorsport in short, with round number 5. And then we return to United States of America for what will be a triple header in the country to wrap up the season. The state of Indiana will play host initially, and round number 6 of the Indianapolis Grand Prix circuit on the 22nd of May. Then we're making our way back to California for the Sonoma Point Race Circuit, and that'll be in what will be round number 7 on the 29th of May. And we bring it all to a close in what will be doing the Texas two-step, as our drivers will be taking on the Circuit of the Americas in round 8 of 8 in our second and final feature race round of the season on the 5th of June. So plenty still in wait, but we've got absolutely brilliant racing action to come today. And well, let's give you a recap of the championship standings going into this round. Now, we start off with the Drivers' Championships, and of course, we begin with the pros. And in the pro class, Tanner Dibble stands atop of the stands by 10 points over Jaden Calloway after his consistency at Belle Isle reigned supreme over his rivals. He may not have been the fastest, and arguably on paper, Jaden Calloway has proven to be the fastest driver in the Formula 4 car this season, but inconsistency has spread, albeit he's now containing it and in turn is starting to close back to the top. Will it be Dibble or will it be Calloway who takes home the Streetfighters Cup today? Or could it be Jason Landry, who is a further, 6 points behind and is now widely regarded to be a slight outsider in this battle, but he's not going to be perturbed and he'll be looking to try and charge into the hunt in P3 on 217 points. Franz Washing is also a viable candidate in P4 on 204 points, but some inconsistencies, particularly in Chicago, round number 2, cost him dear, and he'll be hoping those don't cost him today if he does have a golden opportunity. We then have a sizable gap in the best part of 69 points to Edwin Offred in P5, who leads the hunt in the battle for P5 versus Mika Hendricks by a single point. And it's Milan Harris, Jordan Button and Logan McKinsey who complete the championship standings. We then come to the Prime class, and here we can see the biggest gap in the top of the standings out of all three of our classes. Samuel Bernardy for Rockefeller Racing Esports Red leads on 245 to the 217 of Julian Jones, or appropriately a 28-point advantage that Bernardy has gradually built up over the last couple of rounds, and he's established himself as an early favourite as he's starting to find his form, where others are still trying to get it embedded. Julian Jones is arguably the closest candidate to take on Bernardy, given the points delta and also the fact we've seen some brilliance from Julian Jones over the last 2 rounds, and Charles Hosey meanwhile sits in a distant P3 on 193 points, and we're looking rearwards more to fend off the charge of the likes of Adam J. Ballard, Nick Bader, Joe Nagy, Fernando Takahashi and Kevin Clark, all within close distance, all willing to attack for P3. And let's not forget, of course, we've got 2 drivers on 129 points, P9, P10, David Turner ahead of Matt Best, only on result countback. And then outside the top 10, David Eddy, Bester SP11 on 117 points. He's only 12 behind, breaking into the top 10. There's Jermaine Warren, Aaron Lart and Stacey Bertrand who complete the championship standings. And then let's come to the AM class, and here we can see Jared Kelly is the first of the drivers listed. However, will he be still at the top come the end of today? Because in all 3 rounds we've seen a different set of winners and we've seen a different name at the top of the standings going into the next round, and Jared Kelly is the 3rd name up. Then Carl Peterson is only 5 points behind, and a further 5 points behind is Nick Yakubov. But then again, we could include all the way through to P9, all the way down to Todd Miller. In the fact we've got 48 points separating our top 9, and you may be sat there right now thinking, but surely it's only 50 points for a win today, plus also the 3 points for finishing in what will be first place if you're in the AM or Prime classes. Well, fear not, because this round and the feature race round in round number 8 are both worth double points, given the fact it's only fair as always the feature race rounds will become the drop scores for all drivers in the season. So today is a double points round and the win is worth 100 points, and that's why right now it is a 9-horse battle for the win in the AM Championship Cup for the Streetfighters Cup, and Jared Kelly sits at the top, but it's a very vulnerable lead that he has. And we'll also in the fight Nick Yakubov in P3, Jason Seelin in P4, Aaron Beaver in P5, Mark Senegal in P6, Kirk Lane P7, Roger Ganesh and Todd Miller behind Lane, only on result count. That is your top 9. And then Glenn Bratton sits P10 on 75 points. He could become a contending factor today, but he can't win the championship technically, given he's too far away. But you never know what he could be able to do in order to influence things. And then Bester SP11 is Billman DaCosta, only 2 points off of the top 10, with Tim Chong in hot pursuit, and Christopher Holliday and Braden Melling complete the championship standings. But now let's come to the team's championship, and going into today, of course, this being an overall championship Championship for the entirety of the season. ITT West continue to hold on to their lead and have extended it slightly by 27 points to Sunday GT Turtles. Then it's Rockefeller Esports Red who lead the hunt for the best of the rest spot in P3 on 324 points. 6 clear Slipstream Sloths with a further 15 points to Caboose Crew. And keep your eyes on the P5 team and the fact they are really starting to come on strong in terms of their form. DNA Motorsports have moved to P6. They're now ahead of both Rockefeller Esports Green and Orange. The two sister outfits there continue to struggle for form, with Bearpo and Rockefeller Esports Purple completing the championship standings. Now we come to our circuit for today, with all our championships finally points and double points on the cards. Well, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve needs a bit more of an introduction. Our drivers will be taking on the modern Grand Prix layout of the circuit, located in Notre Dame Island in the city of Montreal in the Quebec region of Canada. And as we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, and thank you to iRacing for that absolutely brilliant simulator and the fantastic track maps that come with it, this circuit is all about maximising top speed in the run from corner to corner. In the fact you have distinct corner sequences around here, and what is the best part of 4 chicanes, 4 extended straights, and also 2 very sharp hairpins, none more so than at turn at number 10. But as the drivers make their way on around here, they'll find very quickly that it's all about being bold on the brakes into Raj Centre at turn number 1, into the sweeping left-hand right angle corner, before they make their way on through the gradual hairpin at turn number 2, and charge their way up towards the first chicane at turns 3 and 4. There'll be medium speed apexes. They'll look to power their way on the exit at turn number 4 and avoid the exit wall, and as they make their way for the long sweeping right-hander at turn number 5, they'll then come hard onto the brakes into the S chicane at turns 6 and 7. There are drivers, we find it's the lowest speed chicane on the circuit, bar the final 2 corners arguably, and as they make their way through the left into right complex, they'll then make their way into the back straight before charging into the braking zone at turns 8 and 9, and there, seeing the cars charging out of the third chicane, they'll make their way down towards the hairpin at turn number 10, where hard on the brakes they'll go, and as they do, we could see 3, perhaps even 4 wide. They're given the narrow width of our Formula 4 cars. However, whoever's leading coming out of turn number 10, they'll make their way through the kink of 11, and quickly realise they make their way onto the Casino straight, or the Droit du Casino. There is all about the slipstream on the run down the final stretch, up towards the final chicane at turns 13 and 14, and that ever ominous Wall of Champions will await them the exit of 14, and if they're able to stay clear of it, they'll go on to another lap, and we need to do it all over again. And to give you a quick reminder of our rules before we go racing today, well, let's take a look at the rules. And as we can see, setup-wise, drivers are running a fixed setup as provided by the middle of the pack racing league, with fuel loads restricted to 14 litres. And what that will mean for the purposes of these feature race rounds, including today and the season finale, is that we are expecting our drivers to make at least 1 pit stop in the race in order to take on fuel, in order to get to the end of the race. Otherwise, if they want to change tyres, it's entirely optional to our drivers. And in general, with regards to our races, they begin with a standing grid start, as it's a tradition of a good number of our leagues, with each driver having 1 faster pair available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 or more instant points. And as it is an endurance race round, the grid order shall be set as follows. There's no qualifying session, but instead it'll be a class reverse grid based on the latest Drivers' Championship standings, which you saw going into it today. Indeed, we just gave you a recap of the championship standings, and the classes shall start in the order of the pros ahead of the primes, and the primes ahead of the AMs. And well, as our drivers all get set and ready to go, we are only moments away from making our way to the grid for the final time in this first half of the season. And as we look to it, Jason Landry making his way on down to what is the Wall of Champions chicane. He's getting himself absolutely set and ready to go. He's got a bit of company around him, and the Sunday GT tells to try in fact into the pit lane, but he's one of your leading pro drivers, and well, the leading pro driver Tanner Dibble in the pit lane right now, parked up for DNA Motorsports. You can see the rear of the car there, and he'll be itching to go racing, and we've seen some absolutely phenomenal form from the 00 driver over the course of the second half of this first cup of the season, and he really has made himself one of those dark sheep contenders in the fact that he's been able to just creep the points off of everybody, where everyone else has been involved in the drama and confrontations with battles on circuit. But meanwhile, as we do look to other drivers out on circuit, Joe Nagy there pulling off at the turn 10 hairpin, letting the car run a bit deep, and I mean deciding just to cool the car down and have it pulled back to the pits. And while he does so, one of our many pro AM drivers out there, and we also do look to Mark Senegal, who we do say hello to in the AM class, and he's in the YouTube chat right now. Good to have you tuning in today, Mark. And we should remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you do know the results from the race, or indeed the practice sessions ongoing, but more importantly of the races today, can you please avoid any potential spoilers in either the YouTube or Twitch chat, just for the simple reason there may be a good number of guys and girls at home tuning right now who don't know what happens, and we here in the commentary booth do not know what happens. We made sure to avoid any spoilers all the way through this last couple of days in order to bring it as close as possible to the raw live racing action as if it were from circuit side. And well, the checker flag comes out in this final practice session, and you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for our drivers to head to the grid, but who will be our winners? Who will take home the Streetfighters Cup for the 2024 championship? Let's find out. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, we can't walk you through a grid graphic due to limitations of the iRacing replay file, but we can talk you through that grid. And well, we'll of course be starting off with our pro drivers on the front rows, and it will be Jordan Butler who takes pole position in the championship order reverse grid, ahead of Meek Hendricks who lines up alongside in P2. Edwin Offer will be starting at P3, joined by Franz Schink on the second row of the grid, and there'll be Jason Landry and Jaden Calloway on row number 3. We are pro championship leader Tanner Dibble starting at P7. Behind them on what will be at P8 on the fourth row of the grid, it will be your prime pole sitter Stacey Bertrand, and the Rockefeller Racing Esports Orange driver will be joined behind on row number 5 by the pairing of Aaron Lahr and David Adeyiyi. Outside your top 10, you've got David Turner and Matt Best on row 6, ahead of Fernando Takahashi and Kevin Clark. With row number 8 going to Joe Nagy and Charles Holsey, then Adam J. Ballard and Samuel Bernardy complete the last of the full prime roles, and we will then be having what will be Julian Jones starting P19 in what will be the last of the prime spots. We'll then be having on what is P20 none other than Braden Melling, your AM pole sitter, and he'll then have behind him on row number 11 Billman DaCosta and Glenn Bratton, with Kirk Lane and Roger Ganesh on what is row number 12, P23, P24, Aaron Beaver and Mark Senegal on row number 13, Nick Yakubov and Jason Seedlin on row 14, and then started P29 and P30, the last two drivers on the grid. It'll be Jared Kelly and AM Championship leader Carl Peterson who'll be getting us underway. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the grid is set. Everyone right now absolutely itching to go racing, and well, as we do look down, the lights have gone on. It's time for the final race in the first cup of the season, and who's going to be the winner? Well, here we go as it's lights and away we go for the fourth time, and as Jordan Butler gets underway, the DNA Motorsports driver gets a good start, no doubt about it, as they head down to the braking zone. Already heavy batting there for Meek Hendricks. He looks to try and hold the outside to inside run with Edwin Offre, and Offre going on the charges. All the field makes its way on through, and as they do, roaring their way out of turn 1, up towards turn 2 they go. Plenty of battling in the AM class further down the order, in fact 3 wide. It does look as though Billman DaCosta going quite deep, going out of turn number 2, but as all the drivers make the way through the turn 3-4 chicane and onwards now through the sweeper of 5, we can see already Meek Hendricks started to pull away from Edwin Offre, as an Offre aim to look a little bit further back as they head onto the brakes, and up the inside goes Franz Schink in the privateer Jordan machine. Switch back there from left into right, and it's going to leave an Offre absolutely vulnerable now to the drivers behind, including Jaden Calloway, who's had a brilliant start to this race, already making some ground as the distant camera shot shows all the drivers starting to make their way in towards the next chicane, and already moves being made here from David Adeyiyi looking up the inside of Aaron Lahr in the battle for the prime lead as they come through the where's the third chicane there, turns 8 and 9, no change at the moment, but meanwhile Tanner Dibble starts to make moves, and Edwin Offre having a very slow run out turns 8 and 9, I think finding himself in the 2 wide all the way through into towards the braking zone for the chicane, and losing out an Offre going all the way down the order to P7, the last of the pros right now, as they make their way underneath our camera at turn number 10, and onwards they go onto the Casino Straight, but as they power their way down towards turns 13 and 14, my drivers right now absolutely keen in, no doubt about it, and well, we look to Jared Kelly, and right now the privateer, your AM Championship leader going into today, well, he's already made some good ground as they make their way onwards towards what we turns 13 and 14, and as they head on down here, all the AM drivers right now lying astern, nobody really looking for a potential move here, and I think all taking it nice and easy for what it is at the first run through the chicane. But as they make the way on through after one lap of racing, it is Jordan Butler who leads ahead of Meek Hendricks P2, Franz Schink P3, Jaden Calloway P4, Jason Landry P5 ahead of Edwin Offre, followed by Tanner Dibble P7, Aaron Lahr, your Pro-Am leader, P8, David Adeyiyi P9, and David Turn completes your top 10. Fernando Takahashi is best dressed P11, and your Am leader currently is Braden Melling, still having started on Am reverse pole, and the privateers had a brilliant start to this race, already moving up into the prime pack into P17, and right now the Canadian driver on home soil definitely seems to have been galvanised by being on his home territories. Matt Best has got around there at the chicane. Now, was that aided or was that of his own volition? We're not quite sure. As he tries to get things back onto circuit, he does so, and he avoids going onto racing line there, but the Texas Speed Sim Racing driver will now know he's got a lot more work to do than he originally envisaged, given the fact he's got to carve his way all the way through what will be the AMs, as well as getting back into the prime fights. But meanwhile, speaking of fighting, Tanner Dibble up the inside at everyone offering in towards turn 8, and the DNA Motorsports driver looks to confirm the moves. He now makes his way on down towards turn number 10. Well, as they do, you can see an off-red tucking into the toe, picking up a gentle slipstream as they make the way onwards towards the anchors, and as they do, just in front, that is going to be Jason Landry taking a sneak peek up the inside of Jaden Calloway, and the ITC West driver's already made some gains. He is ahead of Landry, but I think the key point that the 37 driver will be thinking about here is how he picks his way past Hendricks and Schink, and then goes after Butler, but also being cognizant of the fact that Dibble right now is not too far behind, and he won't want Dibble to be too close given the way the championship standings sit going into this round. And all Dibble would need to do is finish behind what would be Calloway by a single place or two in order to make sure he brings home that Streetfighters Cup after 4 rounds of racing. But they make the way on to their third turn of the circuit under race conditions. Well, meanwhile, we do look a little bit further down. And see, oh my good lord, all the champions has claimed the driver. That's Stacey Bertrand has made an impact to the World Champions. Rear wing gone, an immediate toe to the pits. And for the Rockefeller Esports orange driver, it's all gone very, very wrong so soon. And the World Champions already picking one driver off us. Meanwhile, a bit of late braking there from Kirk Lane into turn number 1 into Raj Dusenna. And Mark Senegal, meanwhile, tugging in behind as Charles Holsey's had a spin. I believe this out of turn number 2 and has had to toe to the pits as well. So we've had some early incidents. Also, Roger Ganesh. Well, Roger Ganesh starting a lot further back down the order, but now gradually making his way up into P20 as I look out my commentating booth window. And as the drivers make the way on for the sweeper at turn number 5, well, the battling are plenty right now in the AM class and also in the Pro class. We've got some further battling here as Mika Hendricks seems to have phased out of existence and rematerialises from the internet ether. We're coming into turn number 8 and 9, going through at the further chicanes, and that's Jaden Calloway up the inside of the privateer as we look back from the rear of the ITD West Formula 4, the number 37, as right now Hendricks has got more company. He's got Jason Landry looking up the inside as the sun shines, but who's it shining more brightly on? I think Landry feels like he's got the move done initially, but Hendricks will know all he's got to do is bury the throttle now, keep his head down, and Calloway will gradually give the toe to both drivers here, get them to fight each other more and more, and it means the ITD West driver can just gradually peel away from the battles. Meanwhile, I'm hearing in my ear that Braden Melling has had a major off, going down out of turn 8-9 chicane, has lost the AM lead, and that AM lead is now in the hands of Mark Senegal. And well, we do see there Hendricks tucking in behind Landry, and Tanner Dibble still watching at a distance. Meanwhile, further behind, that's Aaron Law under pressure from David Adeyeye, and Adeyeye was a man to watch in the practice session. He was one of the fastest primes out there, and at one point for the majority of the session held the overall provisional at fastest time until the very end. And the 132 driver right now on the offensive versus Law, but do keep in mind with the limited fuel tanks that our drivers are running, as Fernando Takahashi there squeezed up the inside of David Turner. Classic move into turn 1, a nice move from the Brazilian driver. We do need to keep in mind that some drivers may be running off of optimum pace in order to save fuel and therefore give themselves the best possible opportunity to be able to get to what will be that pit stop and have a shorter pit stop compared to their rivals, and in doing so that may enable them to gain a couple of places or break away from their rivals who otherwise they'd be battling with. So there will be some tactics going on in the background here, and if you do see some of your regular drivers who are normally fast going a bit slowly, well, it might be because they're using strategy, albeit that wasn't strategy there for Aaron Law, who was mounting the apex curve at turn number 7, trying to battle hard with Adeyeye. And meanwhile, Mika Hendricks under pressure from Tanner Dibble behind, as right now in the battle with P6 and Edwin. Offer, in fact, has had an off, I believe it turns at 6 and 7, but that's pushed him down the order down to P11. We've got more battling here, as we can see. Matt Besser takes the speed sim racing after that early incident at turns 3 and 4. He's able to get the car turned around. He's starting to carve his way up through the AM class and makes his way around the outside of what is Aaron Beaver there for P21. And do keep in mind, of course, all the drivers score their points based on overall finishing position. The only exception being the podium finishers in the AM and Pram classes, where it's 3 for first, 2 for second. And oh my good lord, we'll park the fault there, as that is a lock-up from Carl Peterson under braking into turn number 10. The rear of the car coming loose and sliding his way under braking, making a small tap to the rear of Matt Best's car. But it looks like Best was able to get away with it, but that could have been absolutely catastrophic for the pair of them. And in the end, I think Peterson's heart's going to be absolutely in his mouth right now. The Caboose Crew driver will be grateful. That could not have been any nearer a miss if he tried, but he makes his way down the back straight. You can see weaving off line there to try and see what's wrong with the tyres. Is he getting any vibrations when he makes a slight turn on the tyre? But seems to be a-okay at the moment, and the Caboose Crew driver pushes on. But meanwhile, Mika Hendricks going quite slowly coming out of what is turn number 2. And I think Hendricks may have a problem with the car here. Alternatively, some sort of automated penalty that he's having to serve. Either way, the number 82 driver here really struggling on, and the car limping through. I think he's trying to pick up the speed now, but he finds himself dropping all the way down to P12. Edwin Offred and Joe Nagy make the way on throughout the inside into turn number 5, and Hendricks has given himself plenty of work to do now, even more work than I think he originally envisaged. But he makes his way out turn number 7. And meanwhile, we look back to your top 3 overall, and this is Jaden Calloway. In fact, top 4 overall, we should say, as Francois Shing is your race leader, ahead of Jordan Butler, followed by Jaden Calloway and Jason Landry. And these guys have pulled the best part of 1.8 seconds over Tanner Dibble behind who you see in the rear of the picture. But here comes Calloway holding the brakes. Doors open there versus where's Butler, and as they make the way out to the corner, it's going to be side by side in the drag race now down the Casino Straight. Well, you can see Shinkmore just hold his line, tuck into the inside, making the shortest run into the kink at 12, and the key point being here is that it's Butler and Calloway having to fight harder and harder, as Shink meanwhile just focusing on running his race. But of course the change that Shink will have is he can't save as much fuel as his rivals because he hasn't got the slipstream of another car to siphon off of. If they can do some lift and coast, but he's naturally at a strategic disadvantage by being the race leader unless he can break away from the pack. But you'll need to break out to at least 1.2 seconds in order to break that toe. It's normally noticed around a second's margin, and at 0.7 seconds and closing it gets even stronger. But right now, well, it's Butler versus Calloway as they make the way to break it into 1. Through 2 they go. Butler on the outside now, from the inside to outside he goes, and Calloway's going to defend hard all the way through, and Calloway the aggressor initially, but now the defender as they come to 3, 4 side by side on the break, and they go, but Calloway's got a nose ahead and Butler's going to have to give that one up, and a lovely battle there between the two drivers, and Jaden Calloway I should say, making even more ground lap after lap, already up into P2, and now chasing after Francois Shink for the lead of this race. But meanwhile, we've had a bit of an incident further on down. I believe a lock-up for Mark Senegal into turn number 2 from what I'm hearing on my data, and the same for Kurt Lane and Glenn Bratton in all of this. The privateer in the 289 has moved his way into P18 overall, or P2 in the AM class, so Bratton making some moves, and remember we said he could be a force to be contended with. Mark Senegal having a rub with the wall there on the exit of 5, well that's not normal, but the Sunday GT Turtles driver, has he got some damage to the car that's potentially impacting his ability to turn through medium and high speed corners, of which turn number 5 is a notable medium to high speed corner. Let's wait to see, but Senegal right now does seem to be having an issue with the car and losing some time to the 2 AM leaders, and therefore he's going to have to look off into the distance to be a bit of a forlorn situation as the car against Glenn Bratton, and that's a slowdown for track limits there for the privateer, and that's going to cost him a huge amount of time as it is in one of the primary acceleration zones. And well, normally if you have say a 1 second slowdown on the acceleration zone and it's a long one on a long straight, all that, oh, going to be a lunge there up the inside for Aaron Beaver, hold the 4 as Beaver seeing that Bratton looking very vulnerable, and Beaver saying don't mind if I do. I think Bratton seeing him coming, opting to leave the door open instead of closing it, but meanwhile pulls the 4 again as Fernando Takahashi's gone around the World Champion chicane, and as the Brazilian driver takes the grass he will look to try and get it turned around, but the problem with that grass is it's very slippery for these Formula 4 cars, and well, he will rejoin, he'll rejoin just in time. Well, Mark Senegal and Matt Best make the way through, albeit they'll be a bit sensitive on acceleration on exit in order to be mindful of what's gone wrong there for the Brazilian driver, but definitely a nasty spin. And for Takahashi, well, we can't quite see what happened, but we can see the outcome, and that is he's dropped all the way down to P19, and he is now in the bottom end of the top 10 of the prime class. In fact, he is P10 in the class as he now tries to build his way back up to places. But meanwhile, as they make the way onwards towards turns 3 and 4, well, the batting could not come cleaner and it could not come quicker between our drivers, and on top of that, the drama and incidents as well. But that's what we've seen all season in the Formula 4 so far, is that everything seems to be on an absolute knife edge, round after round, lap after lap. And well, as we look here from Mark Senegal, who's under pressure from Matt Betts behind. In fact, we ride on board and look back from the rear of the 227. Well, the 101 staying very close and in the draft right now as they make the way on down towards turns 8 and 9. And here comes Best looking around the outside. Senegal going defensive here, of course. It's his right, so he doesn't have to steer clear. They're encouraged to battle across the classes, given the fact it's overall points first and foremost. And as they make the way through turns 8 and 9, well, Best goes around the outside in, and Senegal not really offering too much more of a sterner defence other than that traditional inside line. There comes Takahashi peeling out to the inside, looking to go late on the brakes. Will Kelly do the same? Will Jerry Kelly think about it? No, he won't. As meanwhile, Takahashi up the inside, but here comes Kelly on the exit, looking to get the run. As we jump on board what is the nose camera of Kelly's car, we can see there from the front wing just chasing after Senegal in the tow. Less than a tenth now as he makes his way looking up the inside as Senegal holds the outside. It's going to be too wide on entry as they head towards the World Championship chicane, but who's going to be the leader coming out of it? Well, I put my bets behind Kelly at the moment. They'll give each other space just about. In fact, Senegal, they're being absolutely bold and brazen, and while bets were misplaced, as I think Kelly he got the move done, and Senegal's saying no, don't mind me, I'm just going to make this too wide all the way through. And in the end, Senegal catches rival by surprise, and brilliant defending there for the Sunday GT Turtles driver. But to be fair, it required compliance from Kelly, as otherwise the two of them could come together. But still, that's the race and that's the respect they hold for one another, and they also both know it's a long race. We're only a fifth of the way through. We're only 12 minutes into this 50-minute race, and meanwhile we've had some incidents further up the road. That's David Turn, the slipstream softs driver, who's gone around, and that I believe is on the exit of 6 into 7, the second of our chicanes. Well, the 135 driver's got it turned around. I think he was involved in a bit of an altercation separation with another driver. He was passed by Aaron Law at the time. Now, was there contact between the two of them? We can't be sure for certain, but we can be certain is that turn has fallen all the way down to P15 from at the time what was P7. So a nightmare moment from the 135 driver, no doubt about it. And Slipstream Slots Machine now will be looking to recover as soon as possible. But meanwhile, looking further down the prime class, up the inside into turn number 10, this is Adam Ballard, being passed by what is Julian Jones. Jones being the attacker there on the inside, and the Rockefeller Esports purple driver, the sole member of the purple outfit of Rockefeller Esports, right now has to do all the heavy lifting as we ride on board, looking down over the driver's cockpit, and well, it gives you a great perspective how wide these cars are and what it's like to go racing in the Formula 4 and iRacing. As we can see, Ballard having to battle around the outside, too wide they go in, but in the end noticing that he's not going forward, overlapping the sides completely back out, but it does cost him the best part of 0.6 of a second in having to let the place go. It's painful to let the place go, but at the same time, I think for Ballard it was more about just being conservative and knowing there's plenty more races to come. This race is not over by any means. But as he makes his way up to speed for turn number 2, meanwhile Mika Hendricks making a move on Jordan Butler for P7 overall, P5 in the pro class. You can see Butler looking to the inside, going just as much on the offensive there as also defensive versus Nagy behind. And I think the thought process here from Butler is the simple reason he's between a rock and a hard place. In the fighting has pushed the two pro drives back towards the two rising pro-ams of Nagy and Clark, and well, hopefully right now in the mind of Butler he'll be able to just get his head down and focus on chasing down Hendricks, but I think Nagy and Clark will be very inclined to disagree with that mentality and want to try and gain some more overall places as we look to the Haas privateer of Clark in the 189 as he chased after Nagy for third place in the pro class as they come through the right-hander turn at number 8 and into left of 9, and well, as they do, no difference between the two of them, equal on pace right now as they make their way in towards turn at number 10. It's a long run down towards the hairpin, but the point being here, it looks like these pro drivers are evenly matched, and just behind them, well, we do have the rising presence of Samuel Bernardy, and well, the Rockefeller Esports a red driver looking to make some more places here in order to assert his dominance over the Streetfighters Cup in the prime class before this race has ended. But as they head onwards towards what with the casino straight, well, meanwhile you can see that Butler going as defensive as possible down the inside and made the move on Hendricks at turn number 10 on the exit, but it's going to be 3 wide here, or is it? As Nagy looks to the inside, thinks about it, thinks twice and decides not to, but as they come through the chicane, oh my goodness, there's contact there, and whoa, that was a bit of an interesting netcode contact on Clark's car, but there was definite contact between what was Nagy and Hendricks. I think it was the rear right tyre making contact with the front left tyre of Nagy, and Nagy going to the barriers at the World Championship chicane, and then there was the further netcode contact for Clark by the looks of things, albeit nothing bad coming off of that, but that could have been an absolute nightmare moment as Clark too wide now with Bernardy, who's going to seize the opportunity to make his way around the outside of Clark in towards turn number 3. A brilliant move there from Bernardy to make it stick on the exit of 2 all the way to 3, and Bernardy wasting no time and capitalising the opportunity presented to him. And meanwhile Adam Ballard now on the attack versus Jones once again, and well, thinks about diving to turn number 6. We can see Ballard was going nice and defensive in the middle of the road and signalling to what was Ballard in the fact, I should say Jones was going defensive in the middle of the road, getting our lanes mixed up, but he was signalling to Ballard there, if you want this, we're going to take a huge amount of pace out of each other and we're going to cost ourselves the right to chase after Clark and Bernardy, and neither driver wanting that, so understandably Ballard backing off there. But meanwhile, oh goodness me, and as soon as I say that, Bernardy's gone round for Rockefeller Esports red on the run through turns 8 and 9, and there's also Mika Hendricks to the barrier who's just been towed to the pit as a result. Now by the looks of things, I think the two of them may have come together. Bernardy right now limping along. He does have a sizable advantage in the championship, so as long as he gets to the end of this race, I think he'll be feeling confident that he'll be able to get the points home. That'll be enough, but still the Rockefeller Esports red driver will not be wanting to leave it up to fate like that. And well, it's a nicely instant in the fact that Hendricks has had to retire the car immediately due to the damage sustained. I believe also Stacey Bertram. Unfortunately, we've had confirmation down the pit lane. They're not able to get the car repaired at the moment, and well, if they can't get out towards the end of the race, there'll be more than 5 laps down. It will be affecting a non-finish already, as do keep in mind for our drivers to be classified as race finishers, they must finish within 5 laps of the race winner, that being the overall winner, not the class winner of their respective class. But meanwhile, speaking of race winners overall, and we're looking here towards the overall top 4, this is still the battle for P3 between Franz Oshing and Tanner Dibble as they head onto the brakes once again for turns 6 and 7 through the left into right they go, and as they reach the 1/3 away point of this race, well, right now both drivers absolutely locked in here in a back and forth battle for the 3rd place spot, with Landry and Calloway gradually starting to open up slight gaps to these two, the best part of half a second apiece between each driver from P1 to P2 and P2 to P3, and it's only 2 tenths if that between Shink and Dibble in the battle between P4 and P4. But right now they make the way down towards turn number 10. I think both of these drivers cognizant if they fight even slightly, they're only going to cost themselves the opportunity to chase after the top top two, and that top two will want to break away. But meanwhile, speaking of battles inside the top four of the Prime class, while up the inside into the chicane goes Ballard, but he takes the scenic route as he tries to do turn number 9, and he's going to release the place to Julian Jones, and that's going to be an automated slowdown he has to serve as well. I think Jones now will be feeling confident he's just able to pull away, given the error made by Ballard, and with the grass of the tyres as well, that could take a couple more corners before he's finally got all the grass off the tyres and will feel the optimum grip is there. But meanwhile, that is same with Bernardy making a move out the inside. Joe Nagy, the Rockefeller Esports orange driver, letting his red team's sister counterpart go, as meanwhile a bit of a liberal route out the corner there from Kevin Clark coming through turn number 11, I think trying to make his way on around Kirk Lane, and Jared Kelly making a rising move up to P2 in the M class, now P16. We're coming back to the Bearpoke driver and the privateer from Haas, where it does look as though at Lane right now on the attack. As meanwhile we've got here Clark going into the pit, so Kevin Clark goes directly on. Fernando Tagashi, the privateer, stays out on circuit, but Clark might be the first driver to pull the trigger on his one and only pit stop for today. If there is just one pit stop, we may see two, you never know. But Clark deciding to go for the undercut versus his rivals, and the prime driver may as well throw caution to the wind and decide to gamble on it, given the fact he's got nothing else to fight in terms of the championship right now. So therefore this could be a huge result if he's able to put it off. But the car already back out the pit lane after a very quick stop, only a stationary time for Clark was 5 seconds, and therefore Clark putting a quick amount of fuel in the car and going onwards. But as we look to Kirk Lane, currently your AM leader P12, and he's got the rising company Joe Nagy and Fernando Tagashi behind. I think Lane's mindset at this point in time will be just keep your head down, keep putting in those laps, and it's looking as though more and more this AM win is coming his way. But things were to finish as they currently stand, it'll be Jared Kelly who would be your AM champion for the Streetfighters Cup, because this P2 would be enough for him to take the position. But meanwhile, Fernando Tagashi, the privateer, up the inside there of Joe Nagy into turns 8 and 9, and on exit gains the place. That's a P7 in the prime class, P13 overall. But I get the feeling this battle may not quite be over as of yet, as the two drivers continue to fight one another. There has been an incident between Aaron Lyon, Nick Yakubov, Kevin Clark and Edwin Nofre, as Julie pointed out, and that incident has occurred, I believe, on the run through turns 6 and 7, and it has resulted in both Kevin Clark and also Edwin Nofre having to be towed to the pit. So Clark, having made that gamble to go with the undercut strategy, has not worked out. It's resulted in an instant, and Clark right now in the pit lane being serviced after his tow to the pit. More drives into the pit lane. In fact, we have got a storm into the pits now. Tagashi also in, so everyone in for what is their first mandated pit stop on those fuel tanks this feature race, and was that he leaves his pit spot there. 5.3 seconds was his stationary time, and well, Julian Jones has stayed out, and well, Jones the only prime to go out longer than everyone else. By the looks of things, everybody else has made a pit stop. Meanwhile, Jones decides not to for ITD West, and well, Jones here might be making a bit of a gamble, but might be gambling on the idea that doing a bit of fuel saving, plus also holding a nice clear bit of track in front of him, is going to enable him to gain a little bit of overall race time. But do keep in mind the turnaround here is very strong in these Formula 4 cars, with the number of acceleration zones and extended straights, and therefore he won't want to be in lonely company for too long if he wants to gain time, as always drivers who are in a pack may actually gain overall net race time by just having 1 to 2 miles an hour extra on each and every straight. But meanwhile, looking back to the pros, and the majority of our pros are staying out yet to pit. This is Jordan Butler under pressure from Jaden Calloway in the battle for P4, and Calloway has pitted from what was at the time at Pro at P2, and Butler right now fighting hard, and Butler yet to pit, so Calloway losing time here. The driver from ITD West losing out versus DNA Motorsports, his number 2 driver in the Pro order, and you see Butler there pulling off a race and trying to break the tow, doing anything he can to take some time away from Calloway to try and help out the team, but also help out particularly his teammate Tanner Dibble, and was they make the way into breaking into the chicane. Butler at the inside locks up there, and I think Butler forgetting he needs to pit on this lap, as otherwise he won't have enough fuel to do another lap, and the DNA Motorsports trying to take a very, very long way about getting into the pit lane, and Jaden Calloway carries on through. But as we do look to the blimp camera, you'll notice that Tanner Dibble is leaving the pit lane, battling side by side there with Jason Landry at pit exit. Landry goes around the outside within the pit limit line, and it's going to be a two-way battle there. Dibble may have been the leading car coming out of the pit, but as they made the way onto circuit, Dibble battles back on the inside into turns 3 and 4. Landry thought he got it done, bringing in Tanner Dibble, holds onto the pro and overall lead in brilliant battling action between the two. And well, my eyes cannot believe it. I don't think we've ever seen in the history of the Middle of the Pack Racing League a two-wide coming out of the pits of both drivers battling. But there we go, it's the first time we've seen it between two stalwarts of the series, Dibble and Landry, and in the end, Dibble able to hold on. As they head down towards turns 8 to 9, Landry again on the attack here and can't find his way through. Francois Schinck 1.4 seconds behind, well, it does mean that Landry can afford to go fighting, and you can understand why his mindset right now will be to the logic of in the fact that if he is able to get ahead of Dibble and break away, he may be able to run away with this race all the way to the checkered flag, and it would be a huge result. It wouldn't be enough to turn the tables in the championship stands versus Dibble, but it would set Landry up for success in the second half of the season going into the Road Racers Cup. But meanwhile, we do look back to the prime battle between Best and Takahashi. This is a P13 overall. They are right behind Jared Kelly, the AM leader in P12, and right now both drivers want to make progress on each other, but also on their AM rival in front of them, for the simple reason that the more places, the more points, and Takahashi gets in very close there as they come on through the exit of the chicane, down towards turn number 10 they go, pulling out of the toe there, I think trying to get into the head of Best, trying to make Best wonder what's coming from the Brazilian driver as the Texas Speed Sim Racing driver goes a little bit deeper on the brakes there, doesn't quite overstep his braking zone, but you can notice the pressure is starting to build, and Takahashi really starting to play those mind games that sometimes you need to do in order to make those places come. If they won't come naturally for you just being threatening, trying to look up the inside. And well, meanwhile, a bit further down the order, Mark Senegal chasing after Aaron Beaver for the second place spot in the AM cars. P at 15 as it currently stands overall is the fight, and Beaver the lead cars. They make their way past the static cameraman and onwards towards turns at 13 and 14 they go into the pits. Here's Edwin Offro, still the car being serviced, and in fact I do believe he might be leaving the pit lane very shortly, all the way down in P28 as I look out my commentary booth window. But as our drivers make the way down towards turn number 1, our two batters here, Senegal versus Beaver. Senegal the attacker, Beaver the defender. We're on to what's their 15th lap of the circuit under race conditions. No change at this time, but meanwhile a bit of a change further down the AM order. That is Roger Ganesh making his way for the kink of 11 and up the inside of what was at Billman DaCosta, with Joe Nagy also coming through there. The prime driver separating the two AMs of Ganesh and DaCosta as they head down the Casino straight and more in towards the braking zone. They get ready to go, and Ganesh now making some late gains in this race as we get ready to go into the second half of the race. We've still got a lot of time left, however. It's not over yet, and anything can happen before we see that checker flag, as we always like to say in any of our middle of the pack Racing League Series races, but particularly in these longer feature races where that duration is a change of its own. And as we look back to your race leaders, they come towards the end of their 15th lap of the circuit, already going to lap 16, such as the delta that started to open up in the field, and it's Dibble versus Landry as we look back from the rear of the leading DNA Motorsports car as they head into turn number 1. Going through the left into right here, and what is noticeable as well is Landry's lines are a lot more pointed and aggressive compared to Dibble at this point in time. I think Landry's still embodying that mindset of being on the attack, but what is very interesting is Francois Schinck has dropped all the way down to almost 3 seconds off of this pair. His last lap was a 38.0, meanwhile your race leader's doing 37.2s, and I do wonder whether Schinck thinks there might be a second pit stop here today, given the fact that we haven't seen our drivers pit before the halfway mark of this race, so his fuel tanks not being as obliging perhaps as we see it in previous series hosted by the Middle of the Pack Racing League, and therefore it may be the scenario whereby Francois Schinck is trying to go for a one-stop strategy here. Should there be the delta of a one-stop versus a two-stop, and the privateer may just be wary of the strategy and making the right call, as Jaden Calloway now over the back of him as they make their way out to turns 8 to 9, but Calloway a long way back, and Schinck as well. The gap now to the top two expanding to the best part of 3.5 seconds, and will Calloway looking up the inside here into turn number 10. Late on the brakes he'll go. Schinck will give him all the space to play with. I get the feeling this is a strategic move from Schinck not to fight anybody, and right now may just be thinking about the longer term and thinking about avoiding a second pit stop if needed. But as he makes his way on the toe behind Calloway, he'll gain a lot in the slipstream here. He'll gain the overspeed he needs should he want to consider going for a move. I think this is just simply to save some fuel and coast on the throttle as much as he can. We're going on to the race into the World Champion chicane. We'll be interested to see where this puts Schinck in the wider order when we get towards the end of the race. Should our top two in particular not have enough fuel to get to the end after 27 more minutes of racing on what will be their second stint. But as we look here to Jared Kelly battling with the two primes, Takahashi and Best, who both go around the outside, and I think the privateer there locking his mindset in to the idea of just bringing home the AM win and not needing to do anything more, although the overall points will be great, and every overall point you can gain from round to round could be highly beneficial in the final AM Drivers' Championship at the end of the season. I think Kelly wary of the fact that right now, given all the tumult that has occurred over the course of the first 3 rounds of the season across all 3 classes, he doesn't want to throw away that Streetfighters Cup AM crown as he makes his way out to turn number 14. as they head down towards turn number 1 on the roll. They go, and Takahashi still ahead of Best, albeit by a slender margin, and Best staying in the wheel tracks of what is Takahashi. Well, they do have Samuel Bernardy 8 seconds up the road. A long way away is Bernardy, but meanwhile, hold the phone, ladies and gentlemen, as Aaron Lahr has gone round. That's on the exit of 4 to the barrier. And as he had contact with the barrier, it might be a light graze, but the front wing is still on the car and pointing straight. So that would suggest there's been no tap, or it's been a very gentle tap in Patel and the 147 driver, who at the time was running inside the top 3 of the Prime class, and will now dropping outside the top 10 overall and down to what is P6 in the Prime class behind Samuel Bernardy, and where he's now going to have to do the hard work to try and close his way back up. Lahr's got a lot of pace here, however, at Montreal, so therefore I think he'll be feeling confident he can close that gap down, as we get that wonderful camera shot of our drivers exiting turn of 9 and how close they run to the exit wall. But Lahr really sensitive there, and I think there might be some more damage to the car than what we can see externally. I think right now just trying to get his nerves together and considering whether he needs to come into the pits to do repair work, and whether he does, it would definitely force him onto a 2-stop, but it may also give him the opportunity to put a quick splash and dash of fuel in it and give himself the confidence to go full attack for the rest of the race, as that priority machine definitely looks to be out of order right now in terms of not feeling as energetic as it normally is. But meanwhile, speaking of feeling energetic, Jordan Butler around the outside of what is Andre Ballard into the chicane, albeit making an absolute mounting out of the curves, and therefore Butler picking up an automated slowdown and losing 2 places. The one he waited to contest is going to lose more here, as Turn's going to go up the inside through the curve of the start finish straight and around the outside of his rival into turn number 1, and Butler in down to P9 as he exits turn number 2 with Nick Yakubov, who is a lap down P26, looking in the wings and thinking, do I try and do it? But given the fact he'll also be wary of the blue flag risk that will come with making a pass on a drive that's a lap up the road from him, unless he can find a way to get on through and break away if he's got natural pace advantage. With Yakubov in the end backing off and cutting the chicane at turn at number 4, I think breaking a little bit too late, given the dirty out of Butler's car just in front. Bowser drives will roar and weave their way around the Canadian circuit. Meanwhile, we look back to your Pram leader, David Adeyee, and right now the privateer in a very comfortable class lead, and in fact leading by the best part of what is 20 seconds, precisely almost 21 seconds now, and the 132 driver here has been absolutely faultless so far, whereas all of his rivals had an error or two that's cost him a sizable amount of time, and while the privateer looking to be in complete control as he makes his way down towards turns 13 and 14. As he makes his way through, of course, we should remind you the reason why he's running ITD West colours is the fact he is racing for ITD West. However, he's entered as a privateer for this season, given the rules and regulations on how many drivers can make up each and every team in the team's championship, and also what combinations of drivers across the Prime and AM classes are eligible to make up the team combination. So Addy right now in a bit of a lonely world as he makes his way through turn number 2. And in P5, a very comfortable P5, but as he makes his way up towards turns 3 and 4, we meanwhile look back to Joe Nagy, who's just recovered from a spin, and that spin being, I do believe, on the exit of turn number 7, the second last chicanes, and the Rockefeller Esports orange driver at risk potentially of falling a whole lap down shortly. The race leaders are not too far behind. There you can see, going through the camera shot in the bottom left, what was Tanner Dibble, your overall race leader, pro leader with that, and therefore I do think that Nagy right now will be looking to make no further mistakes, and Dibble in the rear of the camera shot as we now focus on the DNA Motorsports leader, or he'll be feeling as though more results coming his way. But meanwhile, there's also been an error for Adam Ballard coming out of what was turns 3 and 4. He's dropped all the way down from at the time what was P7 in his battle for the top 3 of the Prime class. We're saying Bernardy, they're looking to find a way through, but the 2 Rockefeller Esports drivers not getting each other the space today. It's going to be Bernardy who tucks the inside, but Ballard comes across here. It's gloves off and away we go for these two as they make the way in towards turns 8 and 9. And right now Bernardy having to try and find a way through, but not able to do so immediately as they come out of the chicane. And as they do, we ride on board with the chasing car of the 161 of Bernardy. Now we have seen already that Ballard going quite defensive and firmly so through those chicanes. So Bernardy here will take that information, how to process it, and recognise now that he's not going to have an opportunity to just make this move from his teammate, or his sister teammate I should say, given the fact that they are in 2 different classes of the Rockefeller Esports teams, one being red, one being purple in front. But right now the key point being here that Bernardy will concede the moves that are made by Ballard, and also know now he's got to try and find a way through that's not going to cost him too much time, because the gap to David Turn, who is the next car up the road in the 3rd place Prime car, is now 2.6 seconds. Oh my goodness, and that was incredibly close, and there was a bit of contact there between I believe, between the front wing of Bernardy and the rear of Ballard's car. And Bernardy being very late on the brakes, I think trying to send a message to Ballard, which is, look, I'm coming through whether you like it or not, and it's a question of when, not if I'm going to make a move, as they make their way through turns 1 and 2, and well, quite appropriately so, named the Virage du Senna in honour of Ayrton Senna. And I think Bernardy here right now will be looking to channel his inner Senna as he looks to try and make that move for the 4th place spot in the Pro-Am class. But meanwhile, as they make their way through turns 3 and 4, we've got a slow running car there. Jordan Butler and David Turn having to try and fight around the outside of turn number 5. They give each other plenty of space, but Butler, I think, is making haste to the wall on the exit of 3-4, and as they go 2 wide into turn 5, 6, 7 chicane, well, right now Butler just digging in here, and well, in doing so, this is going to force turn backwards towards Ballard and also Bernardy. So therefore, we've got a 3-way Pro-Am fight beginning to build behind a pro of Jordan Butler, who is absolutely eager to hold on to P7. I think he feels like he's got a lot more pace here compared to his Pro-Am cars around him, but the problem is he's got to try and get things to calm down to be able to deploy that pace and break away. And well, that's a lot easier said than done as they head in towards turn number 10 once again, and just in front is Julian Jones, and Jones right now in a very comfortable position, just looking in his rear view mirrors, but I think he won't feel as comfortable there as he's lost quite a bit of time going into the hairpin, and I think Jones might be just trying to nurse the car, perhaps doing some lift and coast in his own to save some fuel. So I think a lot more of our drivers here now worried about the gulf between the 1-stop and the 2-stop strategy, if there is the risk of that occurring, if this is not a forced 2-stop race in terms of fuel. Alternatively, if it's just a 1-stop race and perhaps other drivers not taking as much fuel in the pits as they should have. But either way right now, I think some drivers being very cautious about the fuel situation, also saving those tyres to make sure they can get to the end of the race with comfortable rubber available to them. But as they make their way down the start-finish straight, meanwhile we've got we've got an AM battle here between 2 drivers who could be candidates one day for the Pro-Am class, and it's Beaver looking for the move on Senegal as they make their way in towards the World Championship chicane. Senegal the defender here in terms of trying to hold on after making the move at the hairpin for P2 in the AM class versus Aaron Beaver. Into the pit lane we've got Best, Lar and Lane. They've all come in with what is 17 minutes plus the final lap on the clock. And I do wonder when this might be a premature pit stop from those drivers, given the fact that Lar has yet to make a pit stop too early in the race, whereas Best, in fact, did make a much earlier pit stop due to damage picked up in the early stage of the race. So it's got the fault there. I would imagine that Lar and Lane could be our indicators of drivers who are doing a 2-stop race here on strategy, and therefore they might be calling those pit stops early in order to get an undercut. Best being a bit of an anomaly, he's been forced effectively onto a 2-stop if there was the opportunity for the 1-stop available, given his earlier instant in this race. But as Beaver looks to try and chase down Senegal, he's got Kevin Clark behind, and Clark right now, well, he's a lap down, but I think Clark feels as though he's the fastest driver of the two. As Jason Landry into the pit, and I think this is beginning to confirm that this is looking to be a 2-stop race for the majority of our drivers, as Dibble has gone on to set the fastest lap of the race as your race leader on a 36.5 at 9:10 nearest 100. Calloway and Shink are still out there, and will the driver who we wonder how far he can go on this second stint is Franz Schenk, given the fact he's not really been putting up too much of a defence. His pace has been off the pace compared to his rivals by the best part of a couple of attempts typically, and in fact Calloway and Schenk on that last lap were the best part of what was 6 and 9 attempts respectively off of the pace of Dibble. So therefore I think these two trying to save fuel and see how far they can go with it, whereas I think Dibble's throwing cautions to win, deciding whether it's 2-stop, it's a 2-stop. I'll just make it up as I go along in terms of how much fuel I've got and how many times I need to come into the pits. But meanwhile, we've got battles of plenty here as it's Adam Ballard trying to hold on versus David Turn. Slipstream Slots driver going up on the inside to the outside. Ballard the opposite, and just in front where it is going to be a Butler versus Jones, and Jordan Butler still trying to keep Jones behind, and Jones refusing to give in. Butler gives him the space to look up the inside into the turn 3 entry, but Butler now looking at for Grimmer for where he is. It's going to be Jones. It looks on his inside. Butler goes defensive and returns to the inside into the turn 6-7 chicane. Too wide they enter, and as they make the way on through, they give each other just enough space. Brilliant racing between them, and in the battle between Turn and Ballard, Turn has come back at Ballard on the exit of turns 3 and 4 and has made the move stick for his P8 at this time. But right now Turn getting closer and closer. It could be a 3-way fight into the turn 8-9 chicane. It's too wide. It's going to be Butler on the outside, using his experience, knowing that he needs to have the run on the exit of turn 9, not the run out of 8, in order to hold on to this position. But Jones is still there, and the ITC West driver's got all the speed he needs to force the battle all the way out towards the turn 10 chicane. It's 2 by 2, as better as they come, as they make the way in towards the right-hand hairpin. Jones on the inside there. Meanwhile, Butler a little bit of a power slide, a bit of power oversteer on exit, knowing these cars are very light, and the tyre life now is going to feel as though it's pinching more and more, given the fact this is the longest they've gone on a single set of tyres in the Formula 4 series hosted by the Middle of the Pack Racing League. And as they make the way down the back straight here, down the Casino straight, is still too wide. Butler's going to be on the outside into braking, but he'll look to try and hold on to the inside, but in the end Butler lets it go and decides to throw a dummy, which has made Jones think there was going to be a battle battle into the chicane. Benny Butler just simply lets it go, goes into the pit lane and says, right, you can lose some time, but I'm going to break on the title line into the chicane, and I'll simply use strategy now to get ahead of you. And Jones at this point will be looking in his rear view mirrors and noticing as we ride on board, looking back from the rear of the 133 from ITD West, that he's got the company of 2 primes, and I think he'll be wondering whether that battling with Butler was worth it in the longer term, given the fact that now it means that he's in a three-way fight for what is the second place spot on the prime podium, and he's got a very eager Ballard and a very tenacious turn right behind as they make their way onwards towards turns 5, 6 and 7. As they roar their way on through the right and in towards the left-right chicane they go. Well, if there is going to be a pit stop, it will likely be within the next 5 to 6 laps from these drivers, given the respective fuel tanks and what we saw in the open. Instead, we are using Dibble and Shink, the P1 and P3 cars respectively, albeit Calloway can also be considered the mix in P2. Those are being used as your gauge effectively from our commentator's booth with regards to whether there is the possibility of a 1-stop. We believe Dibble is definitely on a confirmed 2-stop, but he's going as long as humanly possible in regards to Jason Landry, who's in P5, a lot of clear track in front of him, 5 seconds up the road. But meanwhile, Jones, Ballard turn, what you're seeing on screen here, line astern as they come through at the hairpin at turn number 10. No change in places between the 3 drivers, and I suspect pit stops will be on the cards shortly for them. But how are they going to negotiate those pit stops? Who will be the first one to flinch in the strategic call? That is going to be what we'll see here. Potentially, you can see just staying on the top of each other. We've also got a little bit further behind Samuel Bernardy, only 1.8 seconds off. Fernando Takahashi, a further 1.5 seconds down by comparison as they all break their way on through the chicane. Nobody makes their way into the pit lane, so all decide to stay out there. But meanwhile, Jordan Butler, he's bought himself some clear space, and in terms of those respective lap times, well, from Jones on this lap just completed, his lap was a 1:38.24. But as Butler makes his way through, we'll see what the lap time here is for the number 72 driver, and this will tell us whether the undercut is working out for the DNA Motorsports driver, as he is on his first flying lap after leaving the pit lane, and it is going to be well, in fact, it's not going to be a good indicator. We do apologise in the fact that it is his outlap of 48.49, so we'll see on the next lap around what he's able to do. As meanwhile, Aaron Beaver into the pit lane, that's going to release Jared Kelly up to what will be P2 in the AM class, back into P13, and Kelly has already made his second pit stop for today. He is the highest placed AM who has made 2 stops in terms of strategy call, and Braden Melling only 1 stop so far and 2 seconds behind, as you see in the rear of the picture. And after that brilliant start and that great pace, that early spin costing the privateer dear. And I suspect now Melling, when he makes his second pit stop, if he does have a second stop on the cards, it's going to put him a sizable way down the AM order as more drives into the pits from the top 10. Jaden Calloway in, David Adeyemi in from P2, P4 respectively. So Shink staying out there a bit longer. How long can Francois Shink go? That will be on the minds of all of our drivers. Jason Landry now looking to gain places. Calloway leaving the pits, but Landry already back ahead of Calloway. You can see the damage done as there's Landry going through turn number 2, and Calloway, well, he's off the pit limiter now, but Landry already clear of the turn 2 apex, battling a little bit with a back mark here in the form of Nick Yakubov, who I think is trying to give the space as much as possible to Landry, so that will cost Landry a little bit of time going into turn number 3, but not as much as I think the time that will be lost for what will be Calloway, as he's found Glenn Bratton just behind, as we do look towards the P20 car, and Calloway makes his way around the outside of Bratton in the end. I don't think there's any space for Bratton really to give the door open in turns 3 and 4, given the way they approached each other, but the privateer now will release Calloway, and Jaden Calloway will know he's got his work cut out for him to chase down what is a 3.5 second gap to Jason Landry in the battle for P3. We suspect it's really the battle for P2, given that Shink is still out there, and yet take a pit stop if Shink does decide to make that pit stop call, of course. And there's the big question of Tanner Dibble, your race leader, whether anybody can catch him before this race is said and done. Well, the drivers make their way down towards what is turn number 10, and onto the brakes goes Calloway as Nick Yakubov steers into the inside and just simply steers clear of the lead lap driver. Tanner Dibble is into the pits. This will be for his second and final pit stop with 9 minutes left on the clock, plus that final lap. Francois Shink, meanwhile, 14.5 seconds back. He also comes in, so the 2-stop was not a consideration. It was mandated, as he finds a little bit of traffic in the form of Joe Nagy coming into the pits, and these two very close to one another. And Shink, in the end, I think will be feeling a little bit incensed the way the strategic call has come. Dibble leaves his pit box already, and Tanner Dibble right now absolutely yards ahead of everybody else, with Jason Landry just making his way into turn number 1, but Dibble has already cleared the pit exit line and is out of turn number 2, so the gap between Dibble and Landry is 4.5 seconds. Tanner Dibble has got this race in control, and Landry right now will be thinking about trying to chase down Dibble. And I think the challenge will be what pace has he got to be able to do so, with Jaden Calloway 3 seconds behind, and it's a further, what is it, 7 seconds or so to Jaden Calloway for Francois Schink, and the first pit stop, and then going for that fuel saving approach by looks things has just not worked out for number 18 driver. It's cost him dear. It does seem that the strategy today at Montreal has been go all in on all 3 stints, and well, that's worked out for a good number of drivers. And meanwhile, one driver is yet to take what would be his second stop of the day. Mark Senegal, your AM leader, and he's in P6 at the moment. He does have between himself and Jared Kelly the best part of what is 30 seconds, and well, could this be an overcut for Mark Senegal that could work out wonders? We'll have to wait and see. We know he's got to stop at some point, given the fact we've seen all of our leaders do so. So therefore, one more pit stop on the cards for Sunday GT Turtles driver. But could this be an opportunity for him to steal away an AM win here in what is the final round of the Streetfighters Cup and the final round of the first half of the season? Well, Braden Melling is just leaving the pit lane at the moment, and Melling making a good recovery drive as he makes his way past the pit limiter line. The priority is starting to build up speed. Where does this put him out on circuit? It puts him out behind Kirk Lane by 4.6 seconds. That means he's in P4 in the AM class, P17 overall. So Melling in the end, getting himself back into the top 5 on strategy in the AM class. Nicely done there from the 213 driver. In terms of battles out on circuit right now, we've still got Julian Jones trying to hold on to P2 in the Prime class ahead of Adam J. Ballard. And well, just behind him is David Turner and Samuel Bernardy. So therefore, we do have a 4-way fight for the second place spot in the Prime class. And here comes Ballard up the inside, goes all in on the brakes. Jones sees it coming and backs off completely. Lets Ballard go for the move. I think wary of the fact now we've got the long stretch up towards the World Championship chicane, and therefore Jones wants to be the chasing car here naturally, as it will gift in the slipstream and gift in the max speed he needs in order to be able to make a counter attack. But the problem is that Ballard's going to go defensive in the middle of the road. Jones in the end peels to the outside, and I think decides to back off, letting what be at Ballard take the racing line on through the chicane. I think deciding it's not worth fighting right now, be worth it on the next couple of laps, or at least the last couple of laps we should say, so in approximately 3 to 4 minutes time, when we'll have 2 more laps on the cards at that point, depending on where our leaders are on track, and therefore Jones will want to be the one who is in the chase then, as he will have the lightest possible car with minimum fuel, and it's gone offensive, as people go on the offensive. That's turn on the inside, it's all gone wrong for David Turn, who attacks Jones into turn number 2, and well, the door may have been open, but Jones definitely didn't see Turn coming, and in the end, I think Jones will be absolutely fuming there. There wasn't the space to go for the move in here from that far back, and will Turn will hold the position, but I think Jones right now will be very eager to get it back as soon as possible, as it puts both of them behind Fernando Takahashi, who's into P9 now, or P4 in the Prime class, and Samuel Bernardy was just watching the incident occur in front of him and snuck off with P3 in the class, and MJ Ballard's been released to his own devices in the hunt for P2. But meanwhile, as we look to Takahashi and ride on board, looking back from the rear of the 1-2-3 driver from Brazil, as he makes his way in towards the turn 8-9 chicane. Turn coming in hot here. I think Turn feeling as though he's got the brakes to go on the offensive with each and every driver, but the problem is at this point in time with that move, well, he definitely will be having a talking to in the stewards room after the race if it is reported, as they make their way down towards turn number 10. Well, right now Takahashi just simply holding his line. You can see Turn goes very deep there, and in fact giving the place back to Jones, and I think this might be part of him wanting to give the place back, because he'll put himself in the tow now for Jones, so he'll give it back, but at the same time give himself every advantage. But he pulls off of racing line, he pulls out the tow there, and I think Turn intentionally trying to show to Jones, look, I'm giving it back, I'm also pulling the car out of the tow to make sure I can't attack you into the chicane here. And I think they're in turn showing great sportsmanship and doing it a bit late on the lap, but to be fair, doing it at the best place or the safest place to let another driver go, and that is the turn 10 hairpin. But with an error there from what was Jones coming up through the chicane. Now they're back to battling once again. Turn takes a look around the outside. This is going to be bold. It's going to be repeated the previous lap, but hopefully it's not going to see the two come to blows, I should say, and they don't. But David Turn definitely showing between himself and Jones that he's the one who's got the greater pace in his opinion. And as they make their way to turns 3 and 4, it does seem as though Jones struggling a little bit. I wonder if the contact between the two of them earlier on has definitely wounded the car of Jones as they make their way out to turns 3 and 4, and Turn going a bit deep in turn into the chicane. But as they make their way up to turns 6 and 7, will mean while we look for our drivers here to the AM drivers of Kirk Lane and Braden Melling, and right now It's Lane who is the focus, Melling at 3 seconds behind, and the key focus here being that Lane recently being passed by Matt Best and looking to go back on the offensive to finish in P15 if he can from this P16 position for the Bear Poke driver. He'd like to take the place of the Texas Speed Sim Racing drivers. He loses the rear there coming through turns 6 and 7, and I would imagine that Tyre Life right now could be at a premium, and we are getting reports of some spins on circuit, including one for Aaron Beaver, who's now down into what is P28 after being towed to the pit, and also Kevin Clark and Nick Yakubov being involved in incidents of their own quite recently, and Yakubov in fact has gone round the exit at turn number 2 up towards 3, and the Slipstream Sloths driver is having a nightmare of a day that's only getting worse and worse with 3 minutes left on the clock plus that final lap. As he gets the car turned around. Meanwhile, we do look here to a vacant circuit. That's because Tanner Dibble just roared his way past the exit camera at turn number 9, and the DNA Motorsports driver in a very comfortable lead right now of 6.7 seconds over Jason Landry. And your pro leader and overall as we do look to the Sunday GT Turtles driver, your second place driver, who's got Kyle Peterson a lap down between himself and Jaden Calloway. But Calloway is closing, albeit not at a rapid rate or not. It's a 10th or 2 a lap, and the gap down now to what is at 1.9 seconds. I think Calloway will be feeling confident he can close that gap down, but has he got enough time to be able to do it? And the question could be there that time is running out in the fact that after this lap, we've got 2 more laps of racing to come, and at this rate or not, Calloway will not be in attacking distance on the final lap. As Landry mounts and takes a liberal amount of apex curve there at turn number 14, having to be careful of that. And the fact that these suspensions, they are strong, but they're not that strong to do that repeatedly, time and time again. When we look back to the battle between Jones, Turn, Kelly and La, and Jared Kelly, your AM leader, finds himself in a bit of an uncomfortable position here, which is surrounded by pro-ams. He's got plenty of time to mark Senegal, 5 seconds to Senegal, who we look back to here. In fact, that gap has come down to 4 seconds, and I would imagine that Kelly right now will be very concerned as that is a car pointing the wrong way. That is Kevin Clark a lap down, who's had a spin at turns 8 and 9, but coming back to the points here is the fact that Kelly is surrounded by battling pro-ams, and a bit further up the road, we've actually got Fernando Takahashi and Samuel Bernardy fighting for the 3rd place spot on the prime podium as they make their way on down the Casanova straight. But then as they make the way onto the straight, well, now it's going to be Bernardy who has to try and get into the time, find a way through, find a way to decipher the Brazilian as they head in towards the braking zone for turns 13 and 14. 2 wide they go in. Bernardy's going to try and force it 2 wide all the way through. Takahashi gives him the space, but Bernardy in the end just a bit of understeer, crept in as he tried to rotate the car into 13 and couldn't quite stick the outside to inside move. Takahashi in the end holds on with another lap remaining after the one they've just got onto. So 2 more laps to go, of which our leaders already coming to the end of one of those 2 laps, and we'll have a minute left on the clock here. We are going to get what will be 31 laps of racing at the Montreal street circuit today, and Fernando Takahashi doing everything right now to hold on to P3 in the prime class with limited time remaining. But meanwhile, as we see Tanner Dibble here going onto one last lap of race in the first half of this season, a comfortable 7-second lead in his hands here, and Jason Landry a bit further back right now. Well, as Landry makes his way in towards turn number 1, he'll see that Calloway is getting larger and larger in the rear view mirrors, but the key point being that gap is not coming down at a rate of knots that will put Calloway on the attacking path on this last lap unless Landry makes an error. But the one thing we know from Landry is, much like Tanner Dibble, that these pros do not make mistakes, and was Calloway charges after Landry, I think right now just be hoping that there's an error from his rival to bring them into the fight right at the end. But going back to the point about Jared Kelly, when Mark Senegal only 3.5 seconds away, I think Kelly here is forced to fight for overall position. He'll want the points, but he also wants to bring home this AM win, and in the end holding that inside line. Lars going to go around the outside of him through the turn 10 hairpin. So Kelly's actually been quite smart, putting himself on the defensive line and loses a little bit of time, but not as much as perhaps he would have for extensive battling. Just sits in the tow now behind Larturn and also Jones. So Kelly has in fact bought himself the breathing room to be able to stay safe from Mark Senegal, who is 4.7 seconds behind after an error and a break and a lockup from what we're hearing into the turn 10 hairpin. And more 2 wide they go in front here as this is turn versus one is, I do believe, Jones, and in the end Jones makes the corner, turn does not, takes the escape road, and that's going to cost turn at places to Lart and also Kelly. But as they head on towards one final lap, meanwhile, Braden Melling batting still in the chase with what is Kirk Lane. But from them, here is your race leader, ladies and gentlemen. As the clock has already gone past 15 minutes, the checkered flag is getting ready to wave. And for Tanner Dibble, this is going to be a controlled and dominant win. And it's going to be a win that's going to see him take the Pro Streetfighters Cup for the first half of this season. A superb drive from Tanner Dibble, who wins in Montreal for DNA Motorsports. P2 will go to Jason Landry for Sunday GT Turtles, just ahead of Jaden Calloway for IT ITT West, who completes the prime overall podium. Francois Schinck will shortly come through to complete a 4th place run, and the privateer today, it was about the 2-stop. He didn't quite get it right on strategy, but a P4 all the same, and a strong performance from the number 18 driver. And then David Adeyeye will take the prime win in a quiet race, but an absolutely dominant drive from the prime driver, the privateer for ITT West, head of Jordan Butler, with Adam J. Ballard coming on through in gradual time from what will be P7 potentially. And well, we've got a bit of a way to go. And well, speaking of Jordan Butler, he makes his way on down towards turns 13 and 14 in P6 for DNA Motorsports, and a P1 and a P6 day will go a long way to cementing DNA Motorsports' run through the ranks as they try to chase down ITT West in the Team's Championship. But here comes Jordan Butler to take what will be P6, and then Adam J. Ballard will be your runner-up in the Prime Class Day P7 for Rockefeller Esports Purple in a brilliant drive ahead of Samuel Bernardy as he makes his way to line. And with P3 in the Prime Class for Rockefeller Esports Red, he will be your Cup champion, the Prime Class of the Streetfighters Cup, ahead of Fernando Takahashi at P9, and then Julian Jones will complete your top 10 overall with P5 in the Prime Class for ITT West, head of David Turn. Jared Kelly comes up through to take the AM win, and with it takes the Streetfighters Cup in the AM class. A brilliant drive for Kelly, the privateer. Absolutely imagine the race for Plum, when Mark Slinger will take it P13, the runner-up in the AM class of Sunday GT Turtles. And it's Aaron Lowe and boys Matt Best to complete your top 15. And Braden Mellin takes his first AM podium of the season in a brilliant drive. And I think we'll be questioning what could have been if it weren't for that early spin in the race. P16, but more importantly, P3 in the AM class, the privateer, and taking a bonus point as well for that podium position. But he will have been was the last lead lap finisher of this race with P17. Well, in fact, Kirk Lane, P17 being the last lead lap finisher. We should correct ourselves there for Bear Pope, P4 in the AM class, chasing Braden Mellin to the very end. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen, from lights out to checker flag. Drama aplenty. Many driver finish a lap down as well, and we will get to them in due course. But as Jason Landry does donuts there on the start-finish straight, well, Tanner Dibble was the man to beat today in the Pro class and overall, and Samuel Bernardy getting it absolutely right for Rockefeller Esports Red, and will may not have picked up the prime win that he was chasing, with David Adeyeye absolutely in a class of his own. But Bernardy will know he's done the work required in order to bring home that cup, and also a huge haul of points finish inside the top 10, and his championship campaign overall is definitely getting well and truly underway, and that early favourite status will be staying with him into the mid-season break. But as the remainder of our drivers make their way into the pits, let's take a look to those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are, ladies and gentlemen, for the 4th round of the Middle of the Pack Racing League Spring into F4 Championship for 2024, sponsored by PT Actuator and brought to you on iRacing. And as we can see, after our 50-minute feature race worth double points compared to the sprint races we've seen over the course of this season, Tanner Dibble taking your overall win for DNA Motorsports by 7.5 seconds at the checker flag over Sunday GT Turtles Jason Landry. Jaden Calloway not too far behind by a further 1.3 seconds in the end to complete the overall and pro podium for ITT West. And well, Calloway may have been the fastest driver, but was not quite able to stay with Dibble throughout the race on strategy, and that was the delta between them, and Landry able to put himself between them as well. Then in P4, Francois Schinck, the privateer, and the Jordan machine, not quite on the right strategy call today, and I think having to evolve to a 2-stop towards the end of what is his second stint after expecting he could have perhaps gone for a 1-stop, and therefore the fuel saving not coming in handy. But still, he'll take a P4 and know that he's still well within the hunt for the overall championship title in the pro class. And then David Adeyeye, an absolutely a brilliant drive to take his first overall top 5 this season, but more importantly, his first Pro-Am win of the season, and what better occasion to deliver it at for the privateer from ITT West. Jordan Butler, P6 for DNA Motorsports, not quite having the race he wanted, but still getting good points on the board for the team, and their team's championship campaign continues to move forward. Head of Adam J. Ballard, the run-up in the Prime Class, P7 overall for Rockefeller Esports Purple, and a brilliant drive after what has been a struggling season so far for Ballard, but getting things back to their form that they need to be today. And Samuel Bernardy completing the prime podium of Adeyeye, Ballard and Bernardy for Rockefeller Esports Red, and will with that 3rd place finish in the class and P8 overall, cementing his provisional title of what is the Streetfighters Cup champion in the prime class. Fernando Takahashi, P9, the Brazilian driver, the privateer, having a great result today and plenty of hard battling. With Julian Jones at P10 for ITT West, I think a frustrating end to the race today for Jones after the incident with David Turn, and I think he'll be feeling as though what could have been to be on that prime podium, and it wasn't to be. Jared Kelly, P11 there, best of the rest overall, but your AM winner, and with that win, taking the Streetfighters Cup in the AM class for the privateer. My 3 seconds in over Mark Senegal had a late charge for Sunday GT Turtles, but didn't quite have enough laps to be able to make that charge materialise into a hunt for the win, but still great pace being shown there from the 227 driver, and I think we definitely might have a rivalry on between Kelly and Senegal going into the second half of the season. Aaron Law, the privateer P13, ahead of Matt Best for Texas Speed Sim Racing, and then Braden Mellin P15, and the AM driver there for the privateer outfit, more importantly for Eclipse Racing, taking the third spot on the AM podium of Kelly, Senegal and Melling, and again perhaps ruin what could have been if it weren't for that early spin after leading the AM race for the first 10 minutes. P16 to Kirk Lane for Bearpo, ahead of Slipstream Sloth's David Turn, and they were all your lead lap finishers, and then finishing a lap down, a sizable number of drivers today, led by Carl Peterson for Caboose Crew. Wasn't to be his day today in P18, nor for Joe Nagy for Rockefeller Esports Orange, or Glenn Bratton, who completed your top 20 there for the privateer outfit. Albeit a P6 in the AM class of Bratton, and his results continue to be consistent, just missing out on the top 5, but P21, Charles Halsey at P21 for Rockefeller Esports Green, ahead of Roger Ganesh, with Jason Lynn and Kevin Clark completing your finishers a lap down. And then 2 laps down, it was Bearpo's Billman DaCosta ahead of Edwin Offrare, with Nick Yakubov for Slipstream Sloth's P27. And then 5 laps down, he will be classified as a race finisher as he completed the race within 5 laps of the overall winner, Aaron Beaver P28 for Rockefeller Esports Green. And then we did have our 2 retirees of Mika Hendricks, the privateer, and Stacey Petran for Rockefeller Esports Orange, who were classified as non-finishers as they did not finish the race and reach the checkered flag. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a race today. And, well, it sets up to a brilliant end to what is the first half of the season in the Middle of the Pack Racing League Spring into F4 Championship for 2024. And as the circuit falls silent with all the 30 drivers out of the circuit today, showing what they do best, which is some absolutely brilliant F4 racing action. Well, it is time for us to wrap up. But before we do, let's confirm those provisional Streetfighters Cup champions. Of course, we say provisional as we are still waiting on what is the outcomes of any instant reports from this round of racing, and we'll confirm the Cup champions as of the start of the broadcast in 2 weeks' time, round 5. But your Cup Championship winners for the Streetfighters Cup in this first half of the Spring into F4 Championship for 2024 are as follows. In the Pro class, it is a congratulations to Tanner Dibble in the 00 car for DNA Motorsports. In the Prime class, the 161 of Samuel Bernardy takes the Cup for Rockefeller Esports Red, and a round of applause as well for the AM classes. Jared Kelly in the 255, the privateer, taking the AM Cup. And of course, the onus now will be on these 3 drivers to try and maintain their form going into the second half of the season and see if they can make it both Cups back to back and also take the overall Drivers' Championships in the Pro, Prime and AM classes. But do keep in mind, of course, it does mean that they are the first prize winners of this season. And the prize winners, the prizes they will have picked up for their Cup crowns will have been $5 each across the 3 classes. So congratulations to Tanner Dibble, Samuel Bernardy and Jared Kelly provisionally once again. We will confirm their Cup Championship status on what will be the start of the Round 5 broadcast. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting it to be on the grid for the second half of the season, perhaps just wanted to know more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community, or the MPR as it's abbreviated to in short, well, if you do want to find out more or want to be on the grid, then why not check out our official Discord, invite link available on screen there, and there's never been a better time to be part of the Middle of the Pack Racing League Discord, a very friendly Discord, I can assure you, and one where new members are welcomed each and every day. You don't need to be a professional in order to be able to race in the Middle of the Pack Racing League, and here we have got drivers for all skill levels parts of the community and on the grid. But if you don't want to go to the Discord, perhaps you're a little bit shy or more of a social media person, you can of course follow the Middle of the Pack Racing League on Twitter, and that being at twitter.com/MOP Racing. We can stay up to date with all the latest announcements regarding ongoing and upcoming series, and also the trials and tribulations of the Middle of the Pack Racing esports teams. But if you don't want to follow us on social media, perhaps you don't want to go onto the Discord, perhaps you're more interested in our sponsor for today, who would like to take a moment to say a big thank you to, well, it's PT Actuator, and their web address is pt-actuator.com. And well, if you are looking for the pinnacle of racing and flight simulation experiences, PT Actuator are your go-to brand. With over a decade of experience at the forefront of actuator-based motion systems, PT Actuator's huge range of premium quality products are purpose-built to ensure you can experience a gold standard when simulating motion in your simulator. Whether you are looking for a simple one-dimensional freedom system or want to maximize your immersion for a 6-dimension freedom system, PT Actuator have got you covered. So to find out more about their product range, do head to that web address. It's pt-actuator.com today for further information. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now cool the tyres and cool the engines down because we are in our mid-season break week. But when we return to the racing, we will return at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We remain in Canada, but make our way to Bowmanville in Ontario, and we'll be getting back underway with the racing. It will actually be live at Circuit Side on what will be Wednesday, the 15th of May, but we bring you the broadcast of all the racing action as if it were live from round number 5, save the date on a slightly later date of Monday, the 20th of May 2024, and who will be able to go into the second half of the season on a charge. Who will be the one to get the second half of their season underway on a high form and get their Road Racers Cup underway in similar form as well. All that and more you can find out then, but until then, we've been the Middle of the Pack Racing League. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay well. Oh, goodness me, stumbling over my words there. I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen, but remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling. That's it. And most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.